So one of the most difficult questions that a researcher will ask themselves very early on in a project is, did I pick a good topic? Am I headed down the right road? Very early on, it can become frustrating if really one of two things happens. You don't find enough information on your topic, or you find too much. So let's focus on the first of those. You're digging into your topic, and you're expecting to find that other people have done research in the way that you've couched your research question, and you're not finding it. Well, a couple of things might be happening. One, it could be that research is out there yet. Maybe you just haven't found the right search terms, or unlocked that one really good article that's going to lead you into some new directions and reveal a part of the literature base that you just haven't been able to tap into yet. But it could be that you've actually done a fairly thorough job, and those studies really aren't out there. So in that case, it may be tempting to abandon your topic, but I'm going to encourage you not to do that. And the way I'm going to encourage you is I'm going to talk a little bit about what research does and what a lit review can do. It's not just putting together lots of really good research that's already been done and proving a point. We talked about bias in this class, and for many of you, if not all of you, you have a point in mind that you're trying to prove. And sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes you dig into the research, you think it's going to say something, you find lots to support what you think it's going to say. Sometimes the opposite happens, of course. Sometimes you find a lot of research out there, and you get turned around, and you realize that you had it wrong, that your experience had led you in one direction, but the experience of many others put together by research actually is worth listening to and might point you in another direction. But other times, a lit review is simply reporting what's out there and identifying gaps that exist in the literature. So if when you engage in your study, what you find is that a lot of work has been done on the topic that you're interested in theoretical ways or in descriptive ways. Let's say you're looking into co-teaching, and particularly you're interested in the impact or effects of successful co-teaching for students with special needs. You'll find a lot of literature about co-teaching, first-person accounts, accounts of schools and school districts who have worked on this, and maybe even some theoretical work that proposes this as a good idea, or maybe as not the best way to approach children with special needs. Maybe you're not finding the research question the way that you've posed it in a very rigorous study. Now there is some research out there on this particular topic. I'm using it as an example, but it can be confusing when you first wade in. So there are a couple things you can do. One is to do a thorough examination of the literature, and then to simply point out, there's a huge gap in our research base on this question. And one of the major outcomes of your lit review is to identify really good research questions, and to take it a step further and to even structure specific questions and design as to how that research could be done and why it would be really beneficial to the field to have it. That's very useful, because those questions in the big picture get put out into the ether, and researchers from all over the world can pick up on those when lit reviews get published. But in a more local way, good questions that emerge from the work that graduate students do turn into work that other graduate students can pick the baton up and continue to run with here at the University of Arkansas. So questions that emerge both from the field of practitioners and from courses are questions that can be shared and then turn into some really good answers that will not only improve the field, but also improve your knowledge base as practitioners right here in the state of Arkansas or in these surrounding states. So I encourage you to continue to move in that direction and to identify those gaps. All of you will have some gaps in the literature that come up. Another thing to do is to try to do literature research around the topic. So if let's say go back to that example of co-teaching for students with special needs, it could be that co-teaching more generally defined, there's a little bit more research on. Maybe there's more research on the kinds of work that is particularly effective with special needs students. And you can try to find where those two things connect and then make a theoretical case based on what's in the literature for why this would or would not be a good idea. I think all of those are very common and very fruitful uses of your work on a lit review to bring those ideas to the surface. So don't be discouraged if you're experiencing some of what I've talked about in this video. I encourage you to press forward, but as questions come up early on in the process, throw them out on the discussion board for me or for your fellow students to try to add some advice and help you tackle to the ground. The earlier that we resolve some of your concerns and questions, it'll help shape a better experience for you moving forward, and you'll have some of these questions will turn into hopefully some really good thinking about how to structure your lit review, how to maybe change the way you're searching for research, or how to use the research that you have found. So I wish you the best of luck as you're moving forward and going through this process. But at this point, I'm sure you've already dug into your topic quite a bit. You've collected quite a few resources. Keep in mind that it's critically important now that you begin cataloging those resources in some fashion that makes sense for you, building your reference list, and then also thinking about how you're going to critique the body of literature. You're not just throwing what you find out there into one paper and describing it, you're critiquing it. So you have to find those studies that you think are well constructed and defend why you think those are good studies. You have to find those studies that are poorly done but maybe cited throughout the literature, and you have to critique them in a way that's knowledgeable, and in some cases you may have to marginalize some of that literature, but you have to explain why you're doing it. And that is really applying what you're learning in the text to what you're reading in your lit review. And it's a critically important part of any lit review, but especially in this class where we're trying to teach you the skills to think critically about the kind of research you're coming across. So best of luck. Looking forward to fielding more of your questions.